In this video, I want to answer the question, what is authentic leadership? The idea of authenticity has been a constant feature of philosophy through the centuries. We certainly know it goes back to the ancient Greeks and probably even earlier. So it's no surprise that management theorists have picked up on the idea and applied it to leadership. So what is authentic leadership? The idea of applying the principles of authenticity to leadership started with the US businessman and later academic Bill George. In his book Authentic Leadership, Rediscovering the Secrets to Creating Lasting Value, George tried to reset the needle on the way people led their organisations, and this was largely in the wake of the collapse of the Enron organisation in the US. His second book, Discovering Your True North, in 2008, was an even bigger seller. He'd kicked off a huge movement towards authentic leadership. So why do we need authenticity in leadership? Well, as is so often the case, Shakespeare said it best. To thine own self be true, and it must follow, as night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. This is the advice that Polonius gives to his son Laertes in the play Hamlet. And it's all about saying that we must strip away the veneer that we put on when we take on an important role like leadership. Fundamentally, what is authentic leadership? It's turning up to work as yourself, being true to yourself and doing the things that feel honest to you. Because the reality is that too many leaders behave as they think leaders ought to behave. They put on charismatic airs or they take a highly technocratic approach. That veneer of charisma can often strike their followers as false, and the highly technocratic approach that they adopt in the workplace can be alienating to people who just want to see a little bit of humanity in our leaders. So authentic leadership is allowing yourself to be genuine and transparent in who you are, so that the people you're seeking to lead see the real you. And to do this, an authentic leader needs a lot of self-awareness. Above all, you must know yourself, which of course is the ancient Greek advice from the temple at Delphi. And of course, it is no good just turning on the authenticity when you think you need it. That's as much of a sham as not being authentic at all. Instead, authenticity needs to be a constant part of who you are, what you do, and how you do it. And this means absolute integrity in everything you do. You will make mistakes. It means owning up to those mistakes, taking responsibility for them, and taking responsibility for apologizing and putting them right. Authentic leaders are honest, open, and compassionate to the people around them. Different authors highlight different aspects of what it means to be an authentic leader. So I want to pick out what I think are the most important from among those. And of course, we're going to start with self-awareness. My favourite book on authentic leadership is Why Should Anyone Be Led by You? By Rob Goffey and Gareth Jones. In it, they give really good advice about how to be an authentic leader. It's simple. It says, be yourself more with skill. What they're saying is that to turn up to work as an authentic leader, you need to really amplify who you are and do so in a skillful manner, showing the parts of you that are really important in the context that you're working. In Why Should Anyone Be Led by You, Jones and Goffey argue that in many organisations, leaders are highly technocratic and they alienate the staff around them. They often hide behind numbers and processes and procedures and policies, failing to make a good, strong connection with the people around them and often lacking a high degree of self-awareness, which is really important. Real leaders, Goffey and Jones argue, are highly self-aware. They're confident about who they are and what they stand for, and they are absolutely prepared to put their values on show, to go out among the people they lead, and to be questioned about the principles that they're standing up for. As a result, they constantly act with total integrity and are prepared to live by the values that they promote to their teams. But there are plenty of other aspects to authentic leadership. And the first is the way that people use power. Authentic leaders do not rely on their hierarchical power, the power the organization grants them to get things done, and nor do they seek to use coercive power, or even the kind of reward power that represents bribery and incentives that you may or may not be able to deliver upon. Rather, they use force of their personality. They will argue for things in terms of the meaning and the value of the things in themselves, persuading people that it is the right thing to do to follow their lead. To do this, of course, they need excellent communication skills, and therefore, authentic leaders cultivate honest, open, transparent relationships with the people around them. They know that if they use any kind of deceit or trickery or manipulation, it will just come back to haunt them in the future. And of course, transparency means letting people see how you feel. Now, this isn't about wearing your emotions on your sleeve, but it is about being confident enough to let your emotions show. If you are frustrated, let that out, but don't take your frustration out on the people who follow you. If you're pleased, show your genuine pleasure. And of course, the one thing you must never do is take your anger out on somebody and just say, well, that's who I am. That's the authentic me. To be authentic also means you need to be able to control yourself and your emotions when it's appropriate. But this emotional dimension is why many authors refer to authentic leadership as leading from the heart. There's also something about decision making in authentic leadership. It's not about the decisions you make, it's about the way that you make your decisions. And again, transparency and openness is a key component of this. It's a willingness to listen to the people around you, but a preparedness to stand by the decisions you make and take responsibility for your own choices. Critically, your decisions need to be fair, they need to be just, and if they turn out to be wrong, you need to take responsibility for that. But I'd add something else as well. I think an authentic leader is one who is prepared to look at the details of the situation and not be seduced by simple binary choices of this or that. Often, the world is a lot more subtle than opposing choices. There are many variations, many shades in between, and an authentic leader will take the time to understand them, evaluate them, and appreciate the meaning of those choices before selecting something that almost certainly will lie somewhere on a spectrum from this to that. In the current environment, sustainability is really important, and therefore I think the authentic leader needs to have a concept of sustainable leadership, a leadership style that prioritizes the things that matter in the long term. This is, of course, about sustainability of the organization that you're responsible for, but it's also making sure that your organization's footprint on the planet is as light as possible. Authentic leaders prioritize the long-term priorities of their community over the short-term priorities of immediate gain. This, of course, means that authentic leaders need to take a bigger view of what's going on. They need to avoid getting caught up in the details and lift themselves up and see the whole picture. Often, this means putting people first ahead of a blind following of rules and policies and procedures, as technocratic leaders often do, but also putting people ahead of your singular vision, as many charismatic leaders. So, authentic leadership is a difficult balancing act. And authenticity is all about understanding different things that you need to weigh to get that balance right. Crucially, I think authentic leaders need to be reflective. They need to invite and welcome and listen to and think about feedback. Understanding what's happened, getting different perspectives on what you've done, and then reflecting on that and learning from that and growing and changing your practice is a core part of self-awareness, self-control, and therefore authenticity. And finally, we have to end with the most important thing of all, ethics and integrity. Authentic leaders are fair, they are ethical, they are moral, and they display absolute integrity. Now, sure, different leaders in different cultures may have variance on what they consider to be ethical and moral behaviour. But within your culture, you need to display the highest levels of ethical behaviour and integrity. You need to treat people right. You need to be fair to the people around you and to the community within which you sit. You need to act with scrupulous honesty and do what's right rather than what is easy. The truth of the matter is that you always know what is right. The hard thing is to do it. And that quote comes from Stormy Norman Schwarzkopf, former US general. There are varying opinions about authentic leadership in the academic world, but what is certainly true is that in the world of work, where leaders need to get things done, authenticity is an important and valuable component of our leadership. And for me, a big, long-time advocate of servant leadership, authenticity and authentic leadership go hand in hand with that concept. The more you can show up to work as who you are, be self-aware and take responsibility for your choices and act with integrity, then the more successful you will be in a long-term project leadership career. Please do give a thumbs up if you like this video. There'll be loads more great project management content, so please do subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of it. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.